Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12, how you want to call me, I don't really care. And today, we're taking a look at one of the brand new and upcoming Tier A premium heavy tanks, the Caernarvon Action X. And you can view this vehicle right now in the test server that displays 1.0. This tank is already in the game files, so you can search for it and you can add it to the comparison. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to look at the statistics. We're going to look at the statistics of other similar vehicles, namely the Caernarvon, the original Caernarvon, the Tier 8 non-premium tank, and also the T26E4, I think, or E3, the Patriot tank. So that we can kind of get a sense of where this tank will be fitted into, which category, right? And yeah, let's get right into it. As you can see from the looks right now, this tank actually looks like the original Caernarvon before it was patched in the last patch or previous patch to that. The turret is the original turret that was the fully upgraded one. You can see it looks a little bit different now because it has a heat shield on the side and its cupola is a bit bigger once more. But all in all, this tank looks very, very, very pretty. You can see in the back you have like this roster where they put all the stuff in. I have no idea what this is, but it kind of looks like an additional, I don't even know what it is. It might be something like a flashlight. Yeah, it's a flashlight that they can set up somewhere. Then they have like, what is it? No idea. Ball, Caliban, whatever. But it's a very nice looking tank. You can even see like the ammo for the 50 cal on top. And it's a very, very neat looking tank. What I especially like about the looks is that the gun is wrapped in its cloth. That's something that Wargaming have been doing quite a lot recently with a few tanks. The 705A comes to mind, and then there are some other tanks. Modders obviously like to use this cloth wrap to make the guns look like cooler and a bit different from the main tank. I think it's just very awesome looking. Since I myself was in the military and I always like to see those tanks with wrapped guns. Their main armament, when they were wrapped around, it was pretty damn funny looking. And I kind of like the look. So let's go into the comparison. Unfortunately, today we cannot have any gameplay of this tank because, well, you cannot play it yet. It's just in the game files. So we can take a look at the statistics, but we cannot play it. So what do we have here? The Caernarvon Action X is going up against the Caernarvon and the T26E5. Excuse me, it's not the E3 or E4, it's the E5. And all of these tanks have different armaments. The T26E5 has a 90mm gun. The Caernarvon has a 32-pounder gun, which is completely new and comes with the complete new turret that looks exactly the same as the old turret on the Caernarvon, but I mean, not like on the Caernarvon X, but the turret looks exactly the same as the Centurion turret, but it's better on the front, but we'll get to that eventually. What we can see is the average damage is the best on the Caernarvon. They're all somewhere in the 200 areas, 230 for the Caernarvon Action X, which is using the old gun, which is also on the FE 4202, the former Tier 10 British medium tank, now the Tier 8 British medium tank, and they're both rocking the Tier 9 gun, which is fairly nice. You can see the average pen is the best on the T26E5 because it's a super overpowered premium tank. That is why I picked it in here, and to see like the Caernarvon, which is actually now a decent decent heavy tank, and then a premium vehicle that might be, well, decent but not too overpowered, and then an overpowered vehicle that we can totally agree on that is very, very strong. So average pen is the best in the T26E5, 90mm gun, 230, it's 10mm better than the Caernarvon, and 4mm better than the the Caernarvon X. But all in all, I think 220, 226, 230, those numbers for Tier 8 vehicles for the standard ammo, well, I think that's nothing to be ashamed about, because obviously you're even going to be able to pen those Tier 9 tanks while aiming at their weak spots. Now the rate of fire is the best on the Caernarvon Action 10, 10.61 rounds per minute. That is 5.66 second reload time, and that's just absolutely crazy. That DPM is incredible. Turret traverse speed is also better than on the Caernarvon and the T2065, although I'd say the turret is not as well armored as the Caernarvon, especially if you consider both their potential, or the potential of all the three vehicles, of hill battles and little ditches where you can use the gun elevation of 10 degrees to your advantage. Aim time is the best on the T2065, which it just shows how strong this tank is. But there's a big but. The Caernarvon Action 10 is the most accurate vehicle of all these three. Actually, I think it's one of the most accurate tier 8 heavy premium tanks. 0.31 dispersion at 100 meters. What is that? That is incredibly good. The average damage still is better on the Caernarvon because it has a gun that does more alpha damage, and the rate of fire is not too bad to lag behind the Caernarvon Action 10. But 2440 DPM, it's not bad. You can still buff it up with, I think, a lot of different equipments, with chocolate if you like to, and you can get like a hellish good DPM out of this tank. I think 2440 for a tier 8 tank with 226 millimeters of pen, well, good riddance. Doesn't look too great. Now the T2065 doesn't have that DPM, it's very close to it, but you can see what the T2065 can do because of its very, very good armor. So, speaking of armor, let's take a look at the survivability. The Caernarvon, the original one, has 1,600 hit points, while the Action 10 has 1,500. 100 hit points less is not the end of the world, but it can give you a slight advantage in certain areas. Then you have a better turret on the Caernarvon Action 10, but that is not really the case, actually. Well, actually, no, it's kind of difficult to talk about the turret on this vehicle because I think they buffed the turret. 254 millimeters on the front. This used to be a huge turret that you can just slag shots in and not have to worry about, getting like any bounces because the top part right here was so weak that everyone went through. Then you could get down below, shoot like this flat part right here, everything would go through. Then you had like the cheeks next to the gun, everything would go through. So this vehicle, the old Caernarvon, was very ineffective. Although it had 10 degrees of gun depression, it was very ineffective in fighting those hill battles. And especially with the lack of a high alpha damage, it had a lot of issues with going up against those high tier tanks that were like able to put a 800 round shot into the face of this vehicle, while you had to like peekaboo them 4 times to get that amount of damage into them. Like the rate of fire didn't really help you in that situation because the armor just didn't hold up. And the heavy tank is not supposed to be hiding somewhere in the back, but it was like your best option of surviving any engagement. So talking about 254 millimeters of armor on the front of the turret, well, that's impressive. I guess you have one big weak spot on the top of the tank, and that is going to be the cupola. Well, you need to have that, and 52 millimeters on the side armor of the turret. Well, that's impressive as well. I think the armor weld right here does account to that as well, but that's very impressive. Especially if we consider this to the other vehicles. The original Caernarvon does have the same amount of turret armor and a better amount of side armor, but it doesn't have the amazing side turret armor. The T26E5 obviously is a tank that has incredible good turret and hull armor, 152 millimeters on the front, while the Caernarvon Action 10 has 130, and obviously the lower plate is a big weak spot as it is on the Caernarvon, the original one. You have a huge lower plate. Have fun trying to hide that, but I mean, yeah, if you can get the lower plate, I think it's fair that you can take out a vehicle, and that's exactly how it should be, right? It shouldn't be that easy or that hard to take out a vehicle from certain positions, because it should be good in one position, in a few specific locations, but it shouldn't be overpowered in the open field, because then it would just be overall too good. But speaking of the turret, this tank looks to be like one of the new ridge and hill warriors, which could be quite annoying because the cupola on top might not be big enough to be a weak spot, but still, we'll see when this tank goes live. We'll see exactly how it will fare, and I'll give you guys a rundown of what kind of tank it really is. Mobility-wise, the Action 10 doesn't really suffer as much as I thought it would. It weighs 65 tons, but still it has a better engine than the Caernarvon with 950 horsepower opposing the 810 horsepower. So 36.3 kilometers is nothing to write home about, but I'd say it's not too bad for a vehicle of this size and a vehicle with such armor statistics. It's faster than the Caernarvon by, 2 kilometers per hour, but still, that, well, it's not going to make that big of a difference, but still it's nice to have a tank that is faster, just statistically speaking. Then the T26E5 obviously is faster than both of these tanks because it weighs much less, and that just shows that also the track traverse on the T26E5 is also pretty damn powerful. You can see that the T26E5 is very, very competitive in all of these statistics. Concealment obviously is not that great. It's a heavy tank. You're not expecting a great concealed heavy tank. Or spotting wise, 380 meters view range. The Caernarvon has 400. Well, it's nothing to write home about, right? So I'd say all the statistics regarding the Caernarvon Action 10 that are really, really good are the turret, the gun, and its capability of being a very, very good slope fighter, using the turret armor to its advantage, being hull down, and using its amazing tier 9 gun, which also the FE4202 has, to its advantage, and just pick away these enemies to try to cross the open field, or just, shoot whatever you want to shoot at, because it has 0.31 dispersion at 100 meters. So it's a very accurate tank as well. So I think this is a very, very specific vehicle this time around. It doesn't have like the huge strong armor as the Defender or the T26E5. Its lower plate isn't like godlike. It's like a Caernarvon, the old school Caernarvon with an upgraded turret. To finally be able to do the job that the Caernarvon was set out to do all those years ago, but now you kind of pay for it. I'm not really sure if you need to pick this one up if you have the original Caernarvon, but to be fair, this is going to be the first decent British heavy tank premium heavy tank in the game, because if we talk about it, the Talk 2 is kind of a, well, let's face it, the Talk 2 is not really a competitive vehicle. The FE45 is not really a competitive vehicle either. It's just a very, very sloppy and slow Caernarvon that has a bad gun. I think that's exactly not what you want in a premium tank. It will allow you to train your crew quite easily, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the average player, because it's not going to be too hard to play this vehicle. It's not going to be too hard to take it out of the map, like that everyone can use it's not like everyone can just jump in the Defender. But actually, like, a lot of people can just jump in the Defender and do a lot of damage. But in this one, I think it still takes quite a bit of skillful maneuvering to be able to, get this tank into a spot where it can be invincible. And it's still good enough for the average player to have good games in it. So I think this might be a decent premium tank. In regards to being overpowered, well, I guess it's not overpowered. The lower plate does have its weak spots. If I'm correct, the turret, the cupola, is going to be a weak spot as well, so I think you might still be able to take it out. I think it's going to be a decent premium tank, but not as overpowered as the T26E5, because it is a Caernarvon, and a Caernarvon cannot be overpowered in that matter of fact. Caernarvon can be very, very good in certain situations where you can use the DPM to your advantage, where you can use the HP pool to your advantage when somebody just kind of misses your weak spot. But I don't think the Caernarvon is going to be, the Action 10 is going to be overpowered as it is, but we'll have to see. I might refute this statement if it is like a really good Rich Warrior. But until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep on tanking.